Hey, good evening, everybody. Kind of a slightly late start. Been pretty busy doing digital atmosphere programming. I was actually up until about 11 a.m. and got up about a little over an hour ago. So I'm gradually getting up to speed here, and we've definitely got some convective weather out there. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a time lapse. That's kind of weird. It's moving kind of slow. It's not quite what I intended, but we can take a look at the outside camera, and there's actually a little bit more lightning going on there, as you've seen. Pretty active there. Well, that's a good one. I'm going to let this run for probably about 20 or 30 seconds. That'll give people a chance to get back into the channel, because once we close out here at the end of the webcast, we're not going to really see anything except darkness, and I don't think this is going to pick up the lightning very well after dark. But we can check that out. Storm out to the west of here, and you can see the anvil right up here spreading over the top of that, and we've got the updraft up in this area right here. I think the downdraft is probably on the opposite side of that cloud, because I can see the convective textures on the side of the cloud just like that. So I guess we've got the updraft quadrant here on the east side maybe, and then some of the rain falling on the other side. But it looks like a couple of other clouds also trying to go up, and this is where we okay, there we go. I was having trouble drawing it. Yeah, see, that's the cutoff to my between window 1 and window 2. So anyway, there will be a little bit of thunder during the webcast and a few bugs out there. All right, heading into the current charts, this is the line of storms that we're looking at, and they're associated with that front that's coming down out of Canada. And this is the one we've been watching on the European and GFS all the way since late August, and it is pushing south there from about Lufkin through about Waco and Temple and back towards the hill country there, and ahead of up north of that, 1020 millibar high. And this is just a brief look at what Irma is doing. I think at this point it was a Cat 4 storm. I'll check on that, but you can see right down there in that eye. Very spectacular there. And this was taken about 6 or 7 hours ago by one of the NOAA polar orbiters. And most of what you see here is actually the outflow from the storm, up at about 40 to 50,000. We don't really see the convective towers where all the heavy wind is going on very well. If I had to guess, it would probably be kind of in a band, maybe something like that, and then the main eye wall would be focused in an area kind of like that right there, and looks like a few spiral bands out that way to the northeast, and this would probably be a good area to watch water spouts if you could get out into that region. Anyway, it's approaching the Leeward Islands, moving to the west-northwest, and I'm guessing these are the Netherland Antilles, I believe. I know one of the islands there, kind of very well known for airplane shots coming in low over the beach. Someplace that I want to go one of these days. And then further to the west, a little easterly wave moving across Puerto Rico there, and this is the area that's going to get inundated by the storm as it moves westward. But first, before we look at that, we need to kind of look over the large-scale picture, because this is kind of what's controlling things. And we see some ridging over the west coast there, and amplification of that ridge very strongly over British Columbia, Washington, and Alberta. So obviously we're looking at a return of those wildfire conditions underneath that ridge, because that means subsidence, clear skies, low relative humidities, and hot temperatures. Here's the 250 millibar chart. This is going to be up at about 34,000 feet, and this outlines the location of the jet stream, still very far to the north, all the way up over, I think that's Great Slave Lake over Northwest Territories, and then we have a northerly flow down into the North Dakota area, and then southwesterly flow across the northeast U.S. right there. And looks like the upper level ridge is centered over Oregon, maybe up to about Fort Nelson, something like that right there. So that's where the brunt of the heat is going to be. Highly amplified pattern, though. You can see the next wave offshore there. This is like something we would see in the wintertime. So the main thing dominating the weather right now is that front that's coming southward. And normally where we see these troughs, that's where the cold air is going to be. So we know for sure it's going to be cold in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa tonight. So cold air mass up to the north, and we know that downstream from the upper level trough we're going to find the baroclinic low. So maybe I'll be looking for that in the northeast U.S. And since we have mostly cold air back in this region, that would indicate that we've probably got a cold front running something like that, which we're obviously seeing there, getting the thunder out there. And I'm seeing on my displays off to the side all the lightning. Pretty active storm, but I think that's passing by to our south there. So it's kind of giving you an idea how much instability there is out in the air here in Texas at this time. Okay, let me take a look at the chat before I get too far, make sure the microphone isn't broken or something, and while I do that, we'll load up some imagery. I guess we'll have to go back 20 frames for this, so let me get that set up, and we'll have something to look at. And we're loading the frames now. And it may take a while. I think there may be a lot of people trying to get images off this site, but if not, we can just go to one of our backup sources. But anyway, there's the water vapor imagery. So definitely the Gulf, plenty of mid and upper level moisture in that region. And that mid-level moisture is actually very important for hurricane development, and we can see a bit of that all the way down to the area south of Florida. So some good conditions there as far as the mid-levels are concerned. Okay, we're getting our visible loop coming in, and a lot of it is dark, so I'm going to cut out the last few frames there. And looks like we're bringing in some of the smoke from the wildfires up to the north there. There's that smoke band right there. And then we see the towers along the front, right in that region there. Okay, let's see. 49 in chat. Good grief, what's going on here? Sue M., good evening from Cool, Indiana. Stephen Williams will be interested to see, I guess, the track there. Anybody know how fast it's moving? Sue M says 14 miles an hour. Just a little discussion there about Harvey. Subscribers, top 1,500. Good to hear that. Thanks. I appreciate all the support and subscriptions and all that. Ron Chalfant wondering what will happen when Irma goes into the Gulf. Smoke from the wildfires now thick over the Metroplex. Yeah, we can definitely see that right there. Dallas located right there. Moon last night was dark orange. Yeah, I saw that. I think we were in between the bands because the previous night it was very orange, but when I went out and shot that image, it was just normal yellow. David Moore sent a picture of the sun. Sorry, my email is still behind, and I'm going to get to that tonight. I'm very far behind. Part of the reason is because of digital atmosphere. I've been working on programming that all night. And if I can get to that. Good grief, I got so many windows open. Yeah, this is actually the decompressor for the processor for the radar. It's interesting, this Delphi Windows does not want to move when I've got the webcast going. But anyway, there's all the source code, and I was getting some pretty good results with this program. This is kind of a preview look. I can show you that we've got dual support coming. It's just not showing up. Okay, there we go. So there's all the dual pole stuff, differential reflectivity, and I've picked 2 radar sites, which it's downloading right now. Okay, so there's the differential reflectivity display there for 3 radar sites. Actually, yeah. So this is one of the features that's going to be coming in the program, and I'm trying to get this out as quickly as possible here. So why don't we use this to get the current data? I'll go ahead and pull that up and maybe grab some of the synoptic data, get that right on the 00 hour, and we can take a look out in the Gulf and see what things are like out in that region. So we've got the synoptic and METAR data coming in. So we're looking at actual observed conditions, both over the land and over the sea. Okay, so we'll take the map south. Get that a little bit wider. And there's the environment we have over the Atlantic. And you can see that we don't have too many observations out there because we're very dependent on ships and buoy data. But you can see those very high dew points out ahead of the storm, which is out in this region right here. And 77 degree dew points, 79, 77. So that atmosphere is just primed there for convective development. Looks like winds are kind of on the light side, about 15 knots out ahead of it, 10, about 5 to 15 there, and then we can see a look further up into the Florida area. Most of the area is under the influence of that big Bermuda high, which is out over the Atlantic region. And let me get back to the chart sequence here. And we'll go ahead and take a look at Irma and see the track on that. So let me go ahead and reload this, and we'll make sure we have the latest on this. So we're all kind of sharing the same sources here, and we've got a Category 5 storm. I didn't see the previous bulletin, so I don't know if that's new, but you can see there we have maximum sustained winds of 185 miles an hour. That's not gusts. That's sustained wind, 185 miles an hour there. Central pressure 916, which definitely puts it in the, not at a record, but it's going to be up there in the record books along with some of the stronger storms in history. Once it gets in the 800s, that's when things really get serious there. Moving west at 15, that's pretty fast there. So the storm is not as dependent on ocean heat capacity to keep it going, because the hurricane tends to modify the ocean as it moves over it, and the faster it can keep going, the less energy it will lose. The movement is looking like this. You can see it's been trending westward from run to run, but looks like it's kind of stabilized here over the past day, carrying it just south of Marathon. And initially we were kind of looking at a possibility of moving up to Miami, but this westward progression has carried it gradually out into the Gulf. And last night, I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I was showing some very tight grouping of the Ensemble GFS. And let me see if I can bring that up. I don't know if I still have that up. Yeah, here it is. This is the lower resolution GFS. It's run, I think, at a 572 wave instead of like 1534. So it's a little bit less high resolution, but we can run it many, many times. And this is what we got out of 20 members. You can see that there was a very tight grouping carrying it right along the Cuban coast. And that pretty much takes it south of Florida. So there is a possibility Miami may be out of the woods here. But all of the models looking for recurvature right after this point. We're going to see the initiation of recurvature there. So looking like a distinct possibility of a western Florida landfall there. This is the spread on the 50-member European ensemble, and it's a lot more spread out, and that could be because maybe they're a little bit more aggressive with adjusting the initial conditions, maybe. However, the grouping looks to me like maybe two cores, one here, and then one just south of the Bahamas coming up towards the Marathon area. But that was 0Z last night, and we can take a look at the 12Z and see how that's changed. And I literally brought that up like about 3 minutes before we went on the air. I did want to show you something interesting here. If you were a forecaster, where would you expect landfall on this storm to be? Well, yeah, I did not expect that to come up. Some of you might have seen what popped up there, but anyway, let me give you the satellite photo there for those of you who missed it. Say the satellite photo at that last dot right there. Looked like that. Pretty well developed hurricane, category 4 maybe. So would this be expected to hit maybe Lake Charles, Beaumont, Houston, Galveston? Let me see if I can bring up the next dot. There we go. So as some of you might have guessed already, this was Rita. So I was trying to give you an idea of the forecast problem there, because this was a storm that caused the widespread evacuations there in Houston. And I was in Palestine at the time, and we had traffic like I'd never seen coming up the highway from the south into our town. But that kind of shows that last minute beginning of recurvature there. All right, so let me get rid of that, and we'll go back to the current storm. Okay, bringing up Hurricane Irma. And we'll bring up the late cycle. I'm going to show you the... I'm going to put up the control and the GFS ensemble members. And we'll try to get similar picture to what we had last night. So we're bringing up 20 Ensemble members. Okay, then let me double check the points here. So this is 18Z. What is this? AP17, slightly different. I guess maybe they adjusted the center position. But anyway, the first thing I see is that Irma, as it's observed right now, is at 0Z. It looks like it's slightly south of this grouping. So I'm wondering if that could be significant there. And then we're seeing more of a spread than we had last night there. So this looks a little bit similar to the European model there. Looks like maybe two corridors. One possibly putting Miami there in the woods, the other bringing it into the Cuban area. So still at this point, a lot of disagreement, it appears, on the potential tracks. And let me see if I got the European model on here. We'll reset that. The reason I'm putting this up is because the ensembles, the dynamics in there are very good, and we can kind of take a look at the uncertainty. These are good models for track forecasting. Let me check here. We don't have the European model in yet. We've got the British UK Met model bringing into Cuba. The HWRF going for a more northerly track. And this is the official NHC forecast, bringing it pretty much grazing the Cuban coast there and onto the Florida Keys there. And another thing that we can look at is some of the intensity data. Let me see if I can bring that up also. So that's the only downside right now. We are still guessing on the track there, and as you can see, there is still a lot of uncertainty on that track. I'm going to take a look at the model intensity diagrams, and I'm going to look at it in terms of pressure. Let me move this tab over to the left here. Okay, so at this time we've got central pressure there, 916 millibars, so that's anything under 920 is going to be in the category 5 range there. So anyway, let's see, here's the late cycle models. September 6th at 0Z. Okay, September 5th at 18Z, okay. Let's see, NavGem up at the top there. Starting pretty high. I don't know why it's starting at 990 there. The HWRF, that's closer to the central pressure there. And going for a gradual filling up to about 925, 930, and then we see some intensification as it gets out into the waters north of Cuba there. So you see that drop right there in the HWRF back down to 912, so that's going to be a pretty serious storm. This is at the 100 to 108 hour point. Now the other model in the center, it's going to be the HMON model. And admittedly, that's, I believe, kind of a new model. I'm trying to remember if that's the GFDL replacement. but got some rapid development down to 885 and keeping it right around 900, and then you can see it bottoms this thing out at 852, which is way off the scale there. And that would be as it comes into the area just south of Florida. So I don't think we're ever going to see a reading like that on these charts ever again. That's serious readings there. Let's see here. Coamps going for gradual filling. GFS going for slight filling, and then a very gradual intensification as it gets into some of the warmer waters here near Cuba. And then by the time we see it near landfall, it's going to definitely be in the 800s. And finally around landfall, 885 there. Okay, so that's what we have for the dynamic models there. We're definitely dealing with a very serious storm, and it's very dependent on the final track, because obviously as it crosses Cuba, that's going to disrupt the circulation. Friction term works against the forward speed, which means the Coriolis force diminishes, and we see more of a leftward turn of the vectors into the storm, which means rapid filling. Of course, that could just be temporary there, but you can see just, a couple degrees difference can make a tremendous difference on intensity. Now, one product we can look at here is the not only the sea surface temperatures. This is one thing. We're near the peak for the year of sea surface temperature right around this time of the year. And you can see we've got values here of about 27 to 28 degrees Fahrenheit in this region, which is more than enough for development. Generally, 26 is going to be the threshold for hurricane development. And this is our ocean heat content product. This is kind of giving us an idea of how much heat is available to the storm from oceanographic processes. So it takes into account layer depth, because there can be some overturning within the ocean of there could be colder waters coming up to the surface. And what we see here is values just north of Cuba. We're looking at what's going on here, and those are falling in the range of about 100, which is fairly high for these Cat 5 storms, where 75 is going to be about the threshold for supporting those. And you can see we've got plenty of that going on all the way up here. And you can see this hot spot right around the Bahamas. We've got it spiked up to 125 to 150. So with the forward motion, a very fast movement of that hurricane, Cat 5 should be supported by anything in the, say, 80 to 100 range. Actually, 75 to 80, that would be enough to support a fast-moving storm there. So we're talking about greenish shades there, and you can see we're way above that in that track right there. So we've got a lot of potential here for development, very warm ocean temperatures, and even through a depth, there's considerable heat available to the storm. So we are, I think, looking at a record storm here, unless we see that disruption over Cuba, and then at that point, anything is. It really depends on what happens, where it goes after that point. So let's start looking at the forecasts here, and before I do that, maybe I'll take a look at chat and bring up the. Let me go out to the. I'm going to go out to the storm and take a look at that. We're going to need the infrared for analyzing Irma. So I'm going to bring up the full disk. Things running very slow there. There we go. can see we got one storm back in there behind that. I think that was Jose. That would be coming in later, but I think we are looking at recurvature on that, so that may not be a factor. Yeah, there it is. There's the recurvature. Not even affecting the Leeward Islands there, just heading out into the Bermuda area. So, trying to find my satellite image. There we go. There's our look at the beast heading westward, 15 miles an hour there, Category 5 storm. Okay, taking a look at chat. Let me go through real quick. Give me just a second. I'm trying to get the cursor to work properly. For some reason, my scroll bar is not working in here. You see this here? I'm using my wheel and I can't get it to scroll up, so I don't know what's going on here. What are these? Put user in timeout. Remove. Block. Okay, these are moderator actions. Don't want to do that. Give me just a second. I'm going to reload this page. YouTube, I guess the code that they use is pretty flaky there. I mean, I shouldn't have to be dealing with this during a webcast, but I'll try reloading here and see if that works. Veo Joe was banned? What the heck? Oh, geez. Okay, so we've got a malfunction here with this software. Okay, Veo Joe, if you're out there, I'm going to do what I can to fix this, if I can't do it now on the webcast. God, this is so stupid. I'll try to take care of you and make sure that I'll pull you out of there if... I can probably do that online there after the webcast. Sorry about that. I'll try to fix that. Okay, let's see. Let me put the windows back how we had it. There's the storm. Sue M asks, what steers the hurricane sharp north? Recurvature is usually when we get into a stronger westerly zonal flow through a deep layer. It's pretty much a function of the westerly flow in the deep troposphere. That's pretty hard to anticipate subjectively, so we're pretty dependent on forecast models for that. The people that stayed behind on the islands have no idea the true power that's about to visit on them. Pretty true there, Ryan. Trough of low pressure amplifying over the east coast will draw Irma up to the north there from Carl. Oh, he could be referring to... okay, I'm sorry. We were talking about Rita at the time, so I was trying to make sure we weren't confusing that. Good amount of variables still in the game from Ryan. Nobody's taken a chance there in South Florida. Voluntary evacuation orders for Wednesday there. Andrew says hurricane effects on industry must be huge. Carl Berghoff heard rumors of 2 landfalls from Irma, one on Florida, the second near Savannah. Yeah, you know, let me show you what's going on here. There's so much variability in the models that we just don't know at this point. And to drive that home, I'm going to show you the global Ensemble forecast system. Getting a little bit of thunder out there. I have everything on an ups here, but for some reason we go out, that's going to be probably due to telecom stuff being knocked out. Anyway, This shows you the lower resolution GFS, and these are potential outcomes. These are 20 ensemble members, and you can see the different outcomes we have here. We have one making landfall on Miami and heading up to Savannah, as Carl there said. So that's definitely in the cards. Second ensemble member going more up the west coast. We have another going up the west coast there. Another going kind of towards Fort Myers. And then the fifth member, which is off to the side, keeping it completely on the east coast, kind of grazing Miami. And then just taking a quick look at all the other models on the second line. West Coast, East Coast, Central, far out to sea, far out to sea. East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, Central Florida, East Coast, East Coast, Central, Central, Central. So, you know, the kind of the consensus is Central Florida. But looks like we're pretty evenly split which side it goes on, and of course there could be dramatically different results depending on which track it takes. Just 25 miles can make a ton of difference on the effects in places like Miami, Fort Myers, and the Florida Keys. And obviously we're still about 5 days away from that. Let's see what the hell's going on outside. Let me scroll over here. Let's see. Bring up the outside window. Yeah, we got some rain. Just take a quick look, see how much lighting we got. Maybe we'll get a lucky strike on camera. Hopefully y'all don't mind this. I find this kind of fascinating. This will give me a chance to keep up on chat. Let me go look at chat. People just tuning in are probably going to be wondering what's going on. Ryan is in the Fort Lauderdale area. Michelle Dominguez in Puerto Rico. Ryan Toomey's 10 p.m. The folks from the governor's office will speak. Of course, not much to say since we don't have the track nailed down. It's still going to be at least 2 days before we have a good picture of that. Extremely warm water through the Gulf Stream area. And Ryan talking about the Gulf Stream waters adding another category of strength to the hurricane. And like I showed you there, the ocean heat content is almost off the scale around Bermuda. Let me bring that back up. And we only need about, for a storm like this moving 15 knots at a pretty good clip, we only need about 80 to 90 kilojoules per square centimeter, which is going to be in this range right there. And you can see we've got much more than that. We've got anywhere from 75 up to about 110, 120. Now the negative side of Irma is that the land interactions will disrupt the circulation to a certain extent, so we're very dependent on the accuracy of the final track here to really know what's going on. So basically if you have garbage there on the track, then you're going to get garbage from the intensity models there. Okay, let's see here. Tom Bombadil says subscribe. Sorry, Veo Joe. I'm going to figure out how to unban you. That was YouTube's fault there. But I've got a note open, so I'll get that fixed. Carl Burkhoff says thanks for the good detail on Irma. Ron says don't forget to click the like button. And the thunder rolls. Sue says, love the thunder sound effects. Tree Nelson says, at this point, I think we can rule out far to sea. Yeah, we've got one or two European model outliers that are bringing it out to sea, so that is definitely in the cards. However, I would say the consensus of the lower resolution ECMWF there, bringing it up through central Florida. And if that happens, I'm not really too sure what the impacts on Miami would be. Initially, as it comes north, we would have offshore flow. So I guess at least there would be that there. Waterspouts forecasted for Lake Michigan the next couple days from Electric Dog. That rain and thunder sound, very peaceful. Okay. Let me take a look, make sure, see if I can undo. I'm just trying to figure out how to undo this ban. I want to make sure that I can do this after we go off the air. Okay, I'll just have to figure that out later. Anyway, Sue M says, Tim will email you regarding banning. Have an idea why. I don't know if you're referring to Veo Joe. It looked like it was done by me accidentally when I had that lock up there. But anyway, let me keep things rolling. Anyway, thunderstorm outside at this time. This is that front coming in from Canada. We've got a very unstable tropical air mass, and basically we have an east-west line over Texas. So let me go back to the charts here, and we'll see why all that's happening. Charts first. Yeah, there we go. This is the sounding out of... Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Okay, so there's the sounding out of Fort Worth there. This was at 0Z or 12Z, so this is this morning. And looks like we had a little bit of weak moisture up at about 3,000 to 6,000 feet. That line right there corresponds to about 12 Celsius, which is about 52, 53 Fahrenheit. So that's kind of dry air, but it looks like we had a little bit more moisture near the surface. So obviously there is some tropical moisture lurking about. We'll check out the Shreveport sounding, and there we do see a little bit better moisture, dew points from about 15 to 20 Celsius. So if we can kind of lift that over the cap there, we definitely got up to about 86, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And we clear the cap right there. This is the cap. And we end up with some weak to moderate instability there. This is all positive area, and that's enough to get us some storms. They would be topping out there at about 40,000 feet with a few overshoots up about 46 to 47,000 feet. And I'll take a look at Lake Charles. What we really need is a sounding for central Texas. But you can see much better moisture in place there at Lake Charles. Dew points are around upper 60s to lower 70s. And combine that with afternoon temperatures of like 86, almost uncapped there, so you're going to see early convection. Unless there's something to suppress that, and they're good positive area there. And you can see the light westerly winds there, so not much severe weather potential. This is the first thing, after I look at how much CAPE there is, this is the first thing I'll look at as far as severe weather potential. And I can see that there's light mid-level flow. There's a very shallow layer of 55 knot winds there, but overall the bulk shears are on the low side, so not much there to support severe weather. Same thing at Fort Worth. A little bit of shear between the lower levels and the upper levels there, so you could get maybe a few brief circulations there. A few brief spin-ups if you have enough instability. So let's get back to our storm there, and I think the first thing we should look at is maybe, I don't know, does it... I was going to say the NAM, but the NAM, I don't think the this is a finite area model, and I'm not sure it's a good idea to be looking out in the Caribbean at that model. In fact, it doesn't even go out that far. Okay, so yeah, we're going to skip that. So we're going to have to be looking at the global models to see what's going on there. So let me bring that up. Going to bring up our continental GFS model. This is going to be the 18Z run, so this will give us the latest deterministic look at the hurricane. And I've showed you in that other panel, these are the lower resolution models, and this is pretty similar to the GFS models that we were running about 4 or 5 years ago. But with the increase in computing power, we're able to drastically increase the resolution of the model, and that's what we have here. So this is kind of what we call the high-resolution GFS. So let's look at the forecast on that. Okay, bringing that forward, you can see it goes just north of Puerto Rico there. This is going to be on the evening of the 6th on Wednesday afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see it probably just go north of there. And then we see kind of a drift towards the Bahamas, scraping the southern islands there of the Bahamas. And then we see a recurvature off the east coast. That's kind of interesting, but that's... And I saw this last night. The higher resolution models were more aggressive in recurving the hurricane compared to the ensembles there. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. And let's see here. Yeah, and then we see this making landfall on the North Carolina coast. So that's the GFS path, keeping it pretty far north there. The European model, by contrast, yeah, there we go. Bringing it across Cuba there. And then up into the Gulf, just past Key West, and then bringing it up into the Cape Coral, Sarasota, Brayton area. So we're getting, this is the high-resolution European model, so we're getting some pretty different results. And in any case, it looks like we are going to have to watch Florida here very carefully. And let's see what else I got here in the lineup. I guess that's probably about all that I have. I'm going to load up the, let's see here. Yeah, it's only 2Z. We don't have any of the 0Z products in, so about all I can do is tell you that the NHC forecast is going with a southerly track. Remember the GFS, bringing it more up this way. Let me see if I can plot that. Yeah, there's the high-resolution GFS. So that's keeping it very far east for some reason. And then the European model, which is not in this list, is going with more of a track, similar to the NHC track, and then going up into the Cape Coral and Sarasota area like that. And then, of course, we have all the Ensemble models. A lot of clustering there on Florida. A few of them on the East Coast, and then a few of them on the West Coast. And then we have this outlier, higher resolution model, keeping it far to the east. So a lot of questions tonight, and we're just going to have to wait and see as usual, and get a couple more days down the line here. All right, let's see here. One last look at chat, and then I'll probably be done. Sue M says, no, I think troll from last time I reported. I don't understand. You're going to have to email me. I don't understand that. I just want to make sure we're not banning the right person. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling through. Another sounding station in Texas would be nice. Yeah. Would early recurvature cause more damage due to strong winds and storm surge impacting Florida, Georgia? That's really going to be dependent on the track and the forward speed and all that, and there's just no way to know at this point. So we're still playing a guessing game here until about Thursday at least, and then I think we'll have a better handle on this thing. Hurricane Irma is going to be a Cat 4 if it hits the U.S. Yeah, it's safe to say Category 4. There's a couple of outcomes where it could be Category 5. And as I've showed you, there's one... Let's see where I put that. Yeah, there's one intensity forecast model that was going very crazy here. That was the HMON model. And the lowest pressure ever observed in any hurricane was Wilma with 882. And that's right there. And you can see the GFS model right here, getting it down into that territory with that more northward track through the Bahamas. The other ripping it up a little bit due to land interactions with Dominica and Cuba. And then we have this crazy drop. I want to see what the wind speeds are. I don't know what an 850 hurricane would do. That would be just catastrophic. Wind speed. Let me get this centered here. Okay. Let's see. The highest model, NVGI. Where's the HMON? I guess maybe it doesn't forecast intensity. That's kind of weird. Oh, here it is, late cycle models. Yeah, even with that absurdly low pressure of 850, it's only got 170 knots here. And then we have this outlier that's very severe in the NavGem, going for 185 miles an hour and about 175, 180 at landfall. So that's the NavGem. The other model is a Canadian model, keeping it at about 160, very consistent there. Canadian model, UK Met doing about the same. The green line is at HMON. I guess, I don't know what's going on here. It had it very severe there and then dropped that off. And I think our power went out. HWRF. Okay. And then these outliers down on the bottom. GFS ensemble mean. Most of the models we see here, these are due to probably a lot of land interaction. So if we do get Cuba ripping it up, we're probably going to be seeing a Cat 3 storm at the very least, and if not, we're definitely going to be in the Cat 4, Cat 5 range. Either way, this is going to be a bad storm. Anyway, let me check my voltage on the ops and see what's going on. Okay, 127 volts in. I guess we're good. Okay, I think that'll do it for me. That's about all I got. We're just going to have to play the guessing game and wait and see how things look tomorrow. We're still not going to know for sure tomorrow, obviously, but we may see better grouping and consistency with the tracks, and that's what we're going to be looking for here. So hopefully we will see that come together. Because from a planning and emergency management standpoint, that is definitely really what we need, is some sanity in getting these tracks converging. Anyway, that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you joining, and hopefully we'll see y'all tomorrow. Take care.